Cannot go. Welcome to DRTSPR show. This is Dr. Tangilla Shiva Prasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab, hello, and a warm welcome to Narasimha Reddy. Narasimha Reddy Garu, an economist, and those two episodes on Adani and corruption vis-a-vis US judicial system coming behind Adani and his ways of creating investment opportunities, I would say, as if he is providing opportunities for American investors to invest in his Adani Green and other company, stating that they have got all the contracts, all the wherewithal, infrastructure, and as well as to match that infrastructure, they have got contracts, orders, we say in layman's language, the orders from state governments. Jolly well forgetting the National Solar Corporation of India, Solar Energy Corporation of India, it is in a sleeping mode, and the Energy Ministry, Union Ministry, and the state governments are in a sleeping mode, because this corruption angle is going to determine the face of the world and the investments in any country. That is the biggest case. This is not Hindenburg. Why Indian media is still trying to hide, and why Parliament in session is not discussing such a big issue. This has become another Bofors of modern 20th century era. This issue has become modern Bofors. Either you can have Adani issue or you can have Rafael combined. They become more modern than howitzer gun deal between India and Switzerland that time. So why Parliament is shying away? Where is RSS? Why RSS is keeping quiet? Why are you becoming all that deep state, all that nonsense? That is why, to all those supporters and opponents, we are trying to bring in facts so that you discuss only evidences. Whether it is this government or that opposition, we are not bothered. Indian public money and Indian state, whether it is being ruled in a transparent and an accountable way, are they answerable to the rule of our law of the land? And why judiciary is in a sleeping mode? Kannanji is a wonderful judge, Supreme Court Chief Justice. What is happening with the investigation concerning Stock Exchange Board of India, wherein again Adani is the center point? Why Supreme Court? So as if this is not enough, because Indian administration is sleeping, Indian Parliament mode, they are not discussing Adani. He has been caught by US officials. And they are asking very clearly, what is this deal which you had between Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, and a small state, Orissa? Orissa, last time we have clearly shown, he was very clear, the Orissa former chief minister, they did not allow anything, Orissa government, to have a deal with Adani directly. Solar Exchange Corporation of India, they have vetted the agreement. What else you want, Modi ji? Now your own BJP government is there in Orissa. Come on, discuss it. So that is why we are going to show some. Then immediately I'll have Narasimha Reddy Garu online. So this is the one which we are going to come today. The perils of corporate corruption. The USA case against Adani. Modi government waived key cause a day before Andhra signed deal with Solar Energy Corporation of India for Adani Green Power. Can you deny? Come on there, let Modi, let you have a session, Parliament discussing with live. Let every channel broadcast this live so that India can understand, and even it can expose US if US is playing around. We are for the country's sake. So that is why. And yeah, Modi government waived key cause a day before Andhra signed a deal with SIG for Adani Green Power. Analysts have pointed to how Solar Exchange Corporation of India has chosen to remain silent, neither initiating an investigation, nor filing a complaint, nor providing any explanation through multiple allegations. What is that they have to say? The Union government waived transmission charges for states that would have bought power from Adani Green and Azure Power in 2021. A report by the Indian Express has found As usual, we are providing you all the evidences. The report says that 24 hours after this order from the Union Power Ministry, the Jagan Mohan Reddy led Andhra Pradesh government signed a contract with the Solar Energy Corporation of India, a public sector company of the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. SECI in turn gave Adani Green and Azure Power a combined 12 gigawatts of power projects. The SECI is at the heart of the criminal proceedings initiated by the US Department of Justice and the civil case filed by its Securities Exchange Commission accusing the Adani Group, its chairman Gautam Adani, and top officials of involvement in a massive bribery deal of $265 million. The Adani Group has denied the charges. Analysts have pointed out to how Solar Exchange Corporation of India has chosen to remain silent, neither initiating an investigation, nor filing a complaint, nor providing an explanation. Rupees 1,360 crore a year. The Adani Group is alleged to have bribed top Indian officials to sign power purchase agreements of or PPAs with the SECI, despite the obvious expenses associated with such a deal. Andhra Pradesh, one of the states named in the bribery allegations, is now considering cancelling its power contract with Adani. Sir, first you start, then I will show. Many evidences today because Parliament is sleeping. Are Rahul Gandhi ji, India bloc, why are you running away from the Parliament? Why don't you be there inside and debate? What is this nonsense? Sir, please.
Yeah, I think thank you for inviting me again for this episode. We started calling this as perils of corporate corruption, particularly when it is mixed with that of control of, let's say, regulation. We called it as, let's say, regulatory capture. And we call this, when there is a political involvement involved, is a more or less what is referred to as a crony capital. I mean, we can even say the perils of crony capitalism. It has implications for an agreement which perhaps you reach at one particular point, agreements and investments in a country as a whole. The third dimension is agreements and, let's say, prospects of the country's relations with that of other countries in terms of economic dealings, both from the point of view of country trying to invest in other countries, trade with other countries. The reputation of the country as a whole is at stake. That's why we call it as a perils of corporate corruption. It's just not, let's say, one corporate which has done something. Its implications are very, very, very deep, particularly when that particular corporation is very powerful. It has links with that of, let's say, political power as well. So what we do is first we look at, let's say, already Dr. Reddy has shown the details of the agreement that perhaps Adani Green has entered into, that of purchasing of power from the Solar Energy Corporation of India. And then, of course, what are its implications? But implications, of course, we know that particular agreement, but what are its implications for the state of Andhra Pradesh? Then what are its implications for the entire, let's say, investments, particularly an investments of a company which is a corporate company like Adani, which is a very high profile, and that's its investments run into billions of dollars, and within, let's say, the country, lakhs of crores. And similarly, what would happen to that of its association with that of other partners across the globe, including that of, let's say, US, where it raises, let's say, investment funds sometimes. And then we also can see that what perhaps would be the kind of implications, particularly for one particular area where India is very aggressive about, that's the investments in Africa. So we deal with these aspects quickly. The first we can start with that of briefly looking at this agreement through which this AP government has signed to buy 12 gigawatts of power from Adani's through, of course, the Solar Energy Corporation of India. See, what happened here is that, of course, any agreement in this case is welcome because solar energy is the one preferred one, and everyone is talking in terms of global warming. Everyone looks at it positively, that this kind of power development is needed. And then if it is happening, states would compete to, let's say, come to buy the power. But as we have seen in the case of this Adani Green and Azure Power Corporations deal, but when they quoted as a response to that of the Solar Energy Corporation of India, something like 2 rupees 96 paise per unit, it was supposed to be very high. Nobody has come to buy that kind of a high price. No state was willing to buy through its, let's say, power purchase corporations. So therefore, they had to pull the wires that perhaps are available for corporations like Adani from political side. Therefore, what happened was when nobody was willing to buy, the first thing that happened was it is quite clear that Adani's power project, which is coming up in, let's say, Gujarat, will also not be ready by June 30th. It was also clear that Adani power supply would be, let's say, not within the purview of renewable power, let's say, required to be purchased by a state. And therefore, what the government of India, the power department, the central department of power or energy, has waived these two important conditions. That it waived these conditions on November 23rd, that there is no need to link this power purchase agreement with that of, let's say, power generation by the end of June 30th, 2025. And then they said that the power without any limit could be purchased, solar power could be purchased from anybody who is willing to supply. Once this is dropped, these two conditions are dropped, the next came, that is on 30th November. On 30th November, the Power Ministry also waived an important requirement as a part of, let's say, the power purchase. That is a waived interstate transmission system charges, which perhaps amount to that of 80 paise per unit. And the day it was waived, that was on 30th November 2021, the next day the agreement was carried on. December 1st, 2021, the AP government, until then AP government was not willing to buy, because if you add the quoted price of, let's say, 2 rupees 46 paise per unit, which was negotiated by the AP government with that of Adani Green, even that 2 rupees 46 paise would rise by another, let's say, 80 paise, that it will go beyond that of, let's say, 3 rupees, which would be very high. Therefore, AP was resisting. And this resistance was overcome through that of waiving of this 80 paise additional charge. What does it mean? This waiving of 80 paise of interstate transmission system charges would mean every year for the power purchase to be carried on by Andhra Pradesh with that of SEC, amounts to that of 1,360 crores. That's the agreement is for 25 years. Over 25 years, it would amount to that of 34,000 crores. This is the huge amount that has been waived. This would be net loss to that of, let's say, the state itself. These are the charges laid, interstate charges laid. And the burden of paying that charge is, let's say, that means a net gain to that of the corporation which supplies. It need not pay that charge, whether perhaps the corporation pays or let's say AP government pays. AP government point was that it will be a burden on it, and therefore it would lighten by that amount. Therefore, it agreed to buy. I mean, in this whole process, what perhaps happened was it is political manipulation. First of all, the Union Power Ministry trying to, let's say, drop these charges. And then, of course, the security means Solar Energy Corporation of India trying to, let's say, we have no role, but we just take an agreement on the basis of conditions. The conditions are waived, that there is no need to supply by the end of June 30, 25. And there is perhaps now a concession of 80 paise, therefore the agreement has come down. I mean, what it implies is now this dilemma is, there is an allegation, all this happened, the waiving of two conditions, the waiving of, let's say, 80% charges could happen only because of the political clout of Adani Green. And in fact, to the point of December 1st, 2021, until 2019, the negotiations were happening. So what the US investigation has shown is, during this period, there were negotiations which were carried on with an ulterior motive of influencing one particular state to buy. I mean, there are others, minor buyers. The major buyer would be Andhra Pradesh, that to make them agree to buy it, buy the power from Adani Corporation, they have used, let's say, extraordinarily corrupt kind of practice. And that's, I think, the major case involved in the US. What are its implications now to the Andhra Pradesh? The major dilemma of Andhra Pradesh is that the former government, it is accused that the head of the former government, the chief minister, was involved in this bribe of something like $250 million. And the present government is in a dilemma because whether this agreement, which was carried on through that of the corrupt practice, could be continued or not. The delicacy or dilemma or the difficulty that Andhra Pradesh faces is, first of all, the present AP government is also a partner of the central government.
Not
It is the
only that,
central
they are
government.
during Chandrababu Naidu's time, the data processing centers at Vizag, now they are coming up now. Their investment
Yeah,
is also there.
it's there. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. In fact, that's the dilemma. In fact, that's what I'm saying. See that now, if they don't buy the power, what are the implications? Supposing they cancel the power agreement. The difficulty is that AP power requirement has been growing. For instance, there is an estimate. It was growing between 2014 and 24, last 10 years, at the rate of something like 9 point, I mean that 6.5% or so annual growth rate. The projected growth rate is by 31, 32, AP to meet its power requirements from, let's say, this year, 23, 24, has to increase the power supply by 8%. If you go back from this deal, you will not be in a position to meet your power requirements. The second is, that's more important, that's also linked to this. The second is, Adani is not an ordinary company. It's a huge corporation which has huge commitment. In fact, when it comes to the question of AP, a lot of investments were committed by Adani other than, let's say, this power purchase agreement. For instance, besides, of course, the close ties of the present chief minister with the PM Modi, there are really investment kind of dilemmas. Adani in 2022 committed to invest 22,000 crores in AP, of which 10,000 megawatts of solar project. It's interesting, no? That this agreement is separate. They also want to build a solar project in Andhra Pradesh. That perhaps building will take 3-4 years, and that would be the future one. In addition, they have also tried, they also come to an agreement in 22 to generate 3,700 megawatts of power through that of a novel pumped storage system. It is supposed to be hydro solar kind of a hybrid project. Then they have, of course, a commitment to build 2 large cement projects, invest besides, let's say, the power and ports and airports. Adanis are also getting into deeply cement production. They will one day end up as the only producers of cement in India. They have committed to build 2 major cement projects of each of the capacity of 10 million tons, one in Kadapa and another in, let's say, Nadikudi.
Yeah.
And then there is another one, of course, is mentioning about, let's say, 400 megawatts of data center in Visakhapatnam. So these are the stakes involved. So if you just, let's say, that the power purchase agreement you would like to cancel, if you cancel, you can't meet your power requirement. If you cancel, this kind of investments are in trouble, because if you cancel Adani agreements. But this is one side. But when it comes to the question of, in fact, now the whole of Adani affair, it's not merely a complaint given filed in, let's say, the US court, but it has become an international affair. Particularly, Adani is also a global player now, slowly. Not only is a big player in India, is also involved in finances and investments across the globe. That's why I think I have 2 reports continuously. The London Economist dated November 30th as a report, elaborate report about its strength in India. And it has the latest December 7th issue of London Economist also comes out with the implications, international implications. I would just briefly refer to these things. The first is when it comes to the question of Adani's clout, not only Andhra Pradesh, it is a huge clout in, let's say, their projects are not small. Wherever they're investing, let's say, in huge scale. For instance, when it comes to that of now, they have one of the biggest airports in Bombay. They are building a second airport in Bombay. And they are supposed to be the contractors for, again, world's biggest slum rehabilitation or slum development in Bombay. And in fact, they also are building in Gujarat, the world's largest copper smelting plant. And there, of course, also on the Pak border in Kutch district, they're also building a solar plant, and as well as, let's say, the wind project, which is billed as one of the largest in the world power kind of generation plant. And of course, there is this visionism in Kerala, that port. That port is supposed to be the first transit port in India. In fact, that means that international goods transit would take place in It's in competition with that of what China is doing in Sri Lanka. And of course, they are also parallelly doing a port very close to that of Chinese port in Colombo. These are huge projects. They're all under stake. If you have this kind of a reputation to see, why we mention these projects is these projects require enormous kind of investments. Adanis are reported to be the ones who invest by borrowing. In fact, their debt equity ratio is supposed to be one of the highest. It is coming down. So you just buy and then invest, and that perhaps will be, once this reputation is there. The first salvo was fired by some of its international collaborators. For instance, the total power of France. It's one of the biggest power corporation of France. It is in partnership with that of Adani. In fact, every airport, every station, every place you find big boards saying Total Power. Total is the name of the
Company.
French power corporation. It's in collaboration with that of Adani's.
Yeah.
They have first reaction after seeing this complaint by the US in the US court is that they said that we are going to halt our investment in Adani collaboration. But of course, they said we'll watch, but we halt for the time being. I mean, this is the situation, but one of the biggest shocks will be in terms of, let's say, the image that India has built over a period of time in Africa. In fact, India is one of the tough competitors to that of China. China is very aggressive. It's Africa's number one investor, number one infrastructure developer, and Africa's number one trading partner. And of course, India is traditionally, in fact, they talk in terms of as the economist tries to dig up history. India has a long history because the east coast of Africa, many migrant merchants went and settled. For instance, we know about places where I think trading communities settled there in Africa and did a lot of business. For instance, when it comes to the question of Indian, there is something like 3 million Indian diaspora in mostly business communities in Africa.
Yeah.
And in fact, when it comes to Kenya, where I think there was a deal which was cancelled, Kenya was one of the earliest countries where India had links with economic links, but in a wrong way. For instance, during the colonial times, it was the Indian indentured labor which built the Kenyan railways. That was the kind of connection it continues. The deal, the first reaction in Africa was that of, let's say, Kenya again. They have cancelled the two deals. One is to develop the airport and another is to develop the transmission lines worth about 2.5 billion. In fact, when the president of Kenya announced in the parliament that they're cancelling these deals, there was a huge, it appears, rousing applause by the MPs. It's largely because the project itself was under controversy for months in Kenya. They were expecting that the terms of agreement for these two projects, port and let's say transmission, was not in favor of them. And this episode itself is not confined to Kenya, but it gave shocking kind of indications across Africa because India is over a period of time has been increasing its investment in Africa because it's trying to compete with that of the space that Chinese capital is occupying in Africa. And therefore, there is rapid increase in India's investment. Presently, Indian investment
9
is
minutes.
the second. Oh, Indian investment in Africa is the second biggest investment, bilateral African investment. India's trading volume is something like 83 billion this year, 23-24, which is supposed to be third biggest kind of trade relationship with Africa as a whole. And I think when it comes to the question of the first is, of course, again, China, second is, of course, European Union. But this is the kind of note. So there is a huge commitment to build, let's say, a port in Tanzania, a transmission line in Tanzania. And there are, because it's Modi's ambition matches with that of Ambani's ambition. Modi wants to aggressively expand its relationship, economic relationship with that of Africa and expand India's clout there, which is, of course, historically very strong because unlike Chinese, Indian corporates employ, let's say, local people and they have good reputation. But this particular incident is likely to cause a lot of disturbances and disturb that kind of an image. Modi also wanted to ride on this image, and therefore the crux of the matter is that the last I'll close by saying that this BJP's mindless criticism of the United States, saying that they are hand in glove with that of government, they accuse the United States government, they call that state as a deep state, and say that they are in hand in glove with that of a corporation called Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Portal, which was, I think, started by a Hungarian American billionaire to check, let's say, corporate corruption. Actually, he is a well-intentioned person. They're linking this person to that of Rajiv Gandhi because he quoted from that portal that what has happened
I will come
in,
to
let's
that.
say, the US.
We will. I am going to come with that George Soros, Hungarian multi-billionaire American,
Yeah,
who's being referred to as George, Red George. I am going to
yeah,
come back to expose the other side of those who are trying to oppose corruption in
yeah.
corporates through this organization. But here, deep state, that is nonsense. Now it is understood. Now clearly you
See,
are providing evidences against Adani in this deal. Now we have also provided. Why Mr. Modi government and Power Ministry and Solar Exchange Corporation of India, why did you waive or give incentives before, one day before Adani and Azure Group signing a deal with Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister in 2021? You come out clean first. And
the
where is the need
latest
for,
report is
where
that
is the need?
for this accusation, the ambassador of the United States in Delhi responded to this accusation, saying that US state or US government never will have any kind of dealings with that of press or, let's say, the media. It's an independent media. There is no media as independent as the United States media. Therefore, to accuse a United States deep state in hand in glove with that of a media is totally wrong. And he talks in terms of the things which happened in 21 cannot be attributed to the present situation where destabilizing India. He said it's, of course, he was very polite, said it's disappointing that a huge majority party in power is trying to make these kind of allegations. It's unbecoming. The
No,
ambassador
let us
of
not
United
let
States
us not get into deep into that. That is nonsense.
said,
And how good independent US media is during COVID-19, the world has come to know.
"Oh,
Let us
there
not
are
let us,
implications."
no, no, let us not get into that. The simplest
Okay.
three questions we will ask Narendra Modi government and all those who are trying to raise these corruption charges against deep state and all that nonsense. First is, why did Modi government or Power Ministry or Solar Exchange Corporation of India keeping quiet? Why did they waive certain conditions a day before Jagan Mohan Reddy signing a deal with Adani Green and Azure Corporation? First, you tell us that. Then why did Solar Exchange Corporation of India waive those fundamental aspects of agreement with Adani Group, on the basis of which Adani is allowed to have agreements with the state governments and other entities in India to generate and to supply power, solar power? Why 2025 the cutoff dates were removed, and why those manufacturing, those parts or space, whatever you call, have been added to strengthen Adani? Is this not corruption? And in 2014, now I am challenging Modi government and all those, and even this silently keeping Congress also. Congress encouraged Ambani then, now Modi is encouraging Adani. What was the condition, financial condition of Mr. Adani in 2014 when you compare it to 2014, 24 now? How big Adani was in 2014? How did Adani grow, Mr. Modi and Amit Shah? Let us debate. Let Parliament debate. Did this government help them or not in all aspects? Right from SEBI, funding banks, now banking, merger of banks. Why did it take place, Mr. Adani, Modi and Amit Shah? Is it not to allow the loot? You did not allow them those repayments to come back to the banks. Banks have become broke. A common man is being made to pay through CIBIL, is blacklisted, but why not the Adanis and Ambanis? What happened to lakhs of crores of money? Why did you waive for the corporates? Is this not nonsense? For that reason, we say these are the fundamental things which US will indict him, and ours is a mixed economy. Why Solar Energy Corporation of India? I'm just showing with your permission, sir.
No,
With
please.
with your permission, See, if just 1.2% of the Sahara desert is covered by solar panels, we could have produced enough energy to power the entire world. Why Solar Energy Corporation of India is not coming forward? Why Modi government is not encouraging is this? They like BSNL, Modi government is trying to kill all public sector units. What do you say, Narasimha Reddy garu? I'm just quoting some examples. See here, this is also. China invested 500 billion in mountain solar farms that produce how much? 10 lakhs megawatt hours per year. Why you could not do it through Solar Exchange Corporation of India? Why Union Power Ministry is sleeping? Why state governments are not in position to invest? From where is Adani getting money? Is it not through government pampered loans from banks and financial banks? And wherever Modi is going, Adani is accompanying him. You are forcing the other governments to sign a deal with him. Instead of that, you could have made Solar Energy Corporation of India to sign. Likewise, in Rafael, how you have crippled HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. The same thing again you are trying to do with this. Sir, your last comments.
No, my last comment is that when it comes to the question of the exposure made by the American authorities by way of, let's say, filing a complaint in New York court, is based very strongly on the evidence that they have collected. But the implications we have been telling is reverberating across the state, country, and that of the rest of the world, particularly in countries where India had a good name, like in Africa. It's also getting, let's say, a black kind of, let's say, mark there. I mean, as far as raising resources, and then, of course, the corporate resources, see, that I tell you because you mentioned about thousands of crores written off. In a reply to that of a question, Pankaj Chaudhary, Union Minister of State Finance in the Parliament, gave data as to how many crores were waived by way of, let's say, what is called as shaving, that written off for the corporate sector, right from 2019 to that of, let's say, 24. It is 9,90,000 crores, which was written off by the banks as bad loans taken by the corporates. I mean, I'm not saying the entire 9,90,000 crores taken by only Modi. Substantial part are also, of course, involved by Modi.
Adani and
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm Adani. And this is the kind of, let's say, money that country is losing by, let's say, lending to that of big corporates. This is our internal problem. The externally also we are trying to, let's say, in addition, they are raising money elsewhere, getting into these kinds of problems. Yeah. If Adani had not raised money in the United States, they wouldn't have bothered. Because when it comes to the question of their money, they are very careful. They are very methodical, very systematic.
Not like Indians. Now India should awake. India should awake.
India,
it is our money. How it is not? We are keeping. That is why America is filing